Morning everyone, Phil here from Peterson Farms in Nashville, and today we're going to go take a look around and try to figure out a location for what I'm about to review with you, and I need your help. So come along and let's look at the locations together, and let me tell you what I'm thinking, and I'm hoping for your feedback and suggestions, positive ones hopefully. All right, here's the prime site I'm thinking about. Let me walk through it with you. 6, 7, 25, 26, 7, 28, 29, 30. Got 30 feet to work with here. So it may not work out the best. All right, let me explain to you what I'm thinking here. I need a place for a sawmill shed, and it's gonna have to be probably 30 feet long to house a 20-foot sawmill. And I'm thinking 10 feet deep. Even if we had to go 15 feet deep, we could do that. But how should we lay it out on this pad, this stone pad of where I'd like to put the sawmill? And let me explain why. So we have drop off there. You can't really see it too much, but it has an elevation of about 4-foot drop off. Same way on the back side with the capabilities of coming in from that side. I do all the time. We want a road to go down there in front of the chicken coop, in between the barn and the chicken coop, and then come back up here at some point. But our main paths of travel is this road coming in from the entrance of the property, and it circles up in the circle all the way around, so I have access to bring trailers in, back them in, or drive up here into the barn from these access roads. I still want to be able to drive through here. If we're coming up through this road and into the barn lot, I want to be able to drive and access this door, or drive through to the eventual gravel road that we'll be putting in between these trees and this gravel here to take us down to the chicken coop and around to the house, or up to the garden that way. So I need to leave a portion of this open, and herein lies my thought process. I thought about running the sawmill from 5 feet away from the barn, so we'd still have that walkway access with the shelter. This way, 20 feet, but I really feel like we need 30 feet for the shelter to have enough overhang on each side. That would not allow me to access those other drives. So now I'm thinking, if we come over here and we run the sawmill this way, parallel with the barn, and this is about the edge, about the furthest point I'd want to start the sawmill shed, because I'd still like to have 5 feet on this side to be able to run a side-by-side around there, or just access it. We can access this side with the tractor, it's just not the greatest. So if we run the sawmill shed 5 feet this, or 10 feet this way, width-wise, so this is about 10 feet from there to there. We got plenty of room lengthwise, that's not an issue. Then that leaves us Even if we take another 5 feet, this is 15 feet right here. That leaves us another 15 feet in between any obstruction in the barn. But I want to keep it back this way, give me as much access to swing logs in with the tractor into this location, which that should work fine. I can always cheat it a couple more feet that way. It's not that big a deal. I just want a little bit of walking, level walking area behind the sawmill shed. I think that's it. That way we can pull through here with anything we need to. Heavy equipment, trailers. The tractor can get in here with a log and swing around with a good 15-foot log, which I doubt if I'll be really sawing that many, but I just want the capability. So that's where I need you all's help in helping me decide, is bigger better, or should I just go with what my known needs are and a little bit larger at this point in time? And what I'm talking about is sawmills. In the process, I've looked at 5 or 6 different types of sawmills. I've used one type so far. I wouldn't say extensively, but enough to get the bug, if you know what I mean, on sawing your own lumber. And I've got it now down to 3 manufacturers that I'm looking at considering strongly about buying. But what are the benefits and features of each? And really, the must that I have to have, I want something that will cut a minimum 24-inch diameter or width cut. Horsepower is my key question. It must be at least that 14, 15 horsepower type engine. Prefer a 25. Give me your thoughts on that. And the capability of milling, and I don't know why I would need the capability of milling up to 20 feet, but I don't know on that. I think most of the logs that we will mill will be between that 10 and 15 foot, 16 foot range, with 16 foot being the rarity. It's probably gonna be more like the 10 foot range. And horsepower, I know I've worked with the higher horsepower machines like the Wood-Mizer LT40, and I see sometimes how those 15 horsepower engines and lower sort of labor through that wood on videos and in person. But I've also seen some perform pretty good. I think it's just the type of wood that you'll be milling. In my case around here, it's largely going to be pine, which is soft, but we do have a lot of red oak that keeps falling down or rotting at the base, which make perfect candidates for sawmill lumber and firewood. So give me your thoughts. Engine size, length of mill, and width of cut. I'm sort of teetering in a couple different directions as far as that goes. YouTube channels, and I'll put their links in the description below because they're really good channels. I follow them, and they have a lot of good tips on sawmills, and most of this thought process has been built off of those 2 YouTube channels. So one of the channels I've been watching, and I also have hands-on experience with this guy, Brayton with Outdoor Adventures with Brayton. And he bought the LT40 from Wood-Mizer here a few years ago at the Paul Bunyan show. And going to the Paul Bunyan show, if you've never been to that show, it's a must. It's a firewood, lumberjack, lumber, anything to do with wood handling, from little sawmills and little log splitters, all the way up to the big forestry stuff. But at the Paul Bunyan show, Wood-Mizer always displays a huge booth, along with some of the other sawmill vendors. And you can actually go there and try these things out, hands-on. That's right, at the show. But here's Brayton's LT40 in action. Hey, sit up. Did we tighten the band up? They loosened it. Nope. See, that's why you keep me around. What did they say, 40?
3,000.
3,000. Alright. You just do what you do.
Let me warm up.
Wood-Mizer LT40. Just picked it up from the Paul Bunyan Show 2023. Another channel that I've really enjoyed is Tony, with Tony Tractors Adventures. And I've been watching him for a few years. He does a lot of homesteading, sawmilling, firewood cutting, and just other different projects. But he's actually used wood from his sawmill on a project. Go check out his YouTube channel. But here's the sawmill that Tony owns, and explains how the benefits and features he chose on this particular sawmill.
So it's half one, half two, half three, half four, half five. And that makes sure that your blade is tight. Remember what we're going to do is we're going to move the blade guide over, and this is the blade guide. I'm going to put it over. How you operate it is you just lift this handle up. It's got little teeth. You push it in, get it to where you want it, you set it down, you'll feel it lock into place. And what'll happen if you have your blade guides too wide, you will see in certain cuts, certain types of logs, that the blade will wander up and down like this. My measurement's back right. I will come down, barely touch the blade to the top of the log. That way I know exactly where my measurements are. Turn my water back on. do the work.
Another channel I've been recently following is Lucas over at Peak Peaks Hobby Homestead, and I'll put a link into his channel as well. He has a sawmill that I have not really had that much experience with, but he seems to really know his stuff, and he saws a lot of lumber. And check this sawmill out that Lucas has.
That 26-inch sawmill convinced me that milling lumber was a hobby that I wanted to get more serious about. And so for that reason, I'm shopping for a bigger tractor so I can handle bigger logs. And MechMaxx sent me this SM32 sawmill to assemble and learn about the mill and the differences between the two sawmills so I would have more experience and a little bit more knowledge about their product. And initially, I asked them specifically for the SM26 because I didn't see myself wanting anything bigger. After about 6 months of milling on that mill, I realized that even if I don't want to mill 32-inch logs, having the extra space on the bunks and some of the other things that come along with having more space would make it easier to mill anything that you're milling. So I mentioned the bunks are obviously wider on the SM32, and that makes it easier and safer to turn logs manually on the bunk. This sawmill now comes with a 14-horse Kohler electric start engine. And when I got this mill assembled and fired it up, it was just a little bit quieter, seemed a little bit more refined, and all I had to do was turn the key to fire it up. So if you want to get into milling affordably, that's the most affordable way that you're going to do it. I don't believe there's any other brand on the market that's going to sell you as much value as MechMaxx. For under $3,000, you can have the capabilities to do something like this and build your own shed or your own barn or whatever it is that you want to make. You can cut your own live edge slabs, and it's a very capable machine, and that's a very affordable way to do it. So that's an awesome machine. But if you're on the fence about spending a little more money and upgrading, I want to show you the differences between the SM26 and this SM32. Now, one of the very first things that I noticed about the SM26 was that the handle to raise and lower the mill head was up on the very top of this mill head. So I had to design my mill base low enough that I would be able to reach. Anybody a little bit shorter wanted to adjust the mill, it was a complete extension in order to reach the handle to crank. The mill head adjustment on this SM32 to me is in the perfect location. With this design, you have a lock right here, which is easy to just flip and unlock with your thumb, and then you're in the perfect location to just crank. It works really well. So I love the difference in the handle placement here. This works fantastic. Another upgrade that I really like on this SM32 is the way that this throttle handle is made, because it is a much sturdier handle. The other one was kind of like a bicycle brake handle, but a little bit flimsy. And this one has a much more defined adjustment setting on it. This Kohler Command Pro 14-horse engine is just fantastic. That is a Kohler Pro. That's the perfect engine for this mill. It's plenty of power for what you're going to be doing on this mill. Like that on the tension T-handle, they have welded a hex head so that you can put a torque wrench on here and set your blade tension accurately.
So let me take you around and explain a few projects that we are needing to get done. First of all, this barn has to be addressed. It was built 40 plus years ago with sawmill wood. And as you can see, they didn't go far enough over with the eaves, and the gutter has broken down over the years, causing a lot of water damage inside and out. So that's got to be addressed. What hasn't deteriorated is the good side where it hasn't leaked. So if I have to buy a bunch of lumber to make repairs to this barn inside and outside, immediate needs is get it structurally sound and that siding replaced over. There's some of the lumber that we milled in the past. This stack used to be twice this height for the little time that we had the sawmill here on the property. And it produced very nice lumber out of some pine trees that we had cut down. And that's where I got the bug. Not only milling the lumber, but utilizing some of it for projects. One of the other projects is this garden. And we've been real pleased with it. And obviously you can see a trend around here when I build something. Typically when I build something around here, it's big, or I go big. Long term for this garden, we've always wanted to make it a gardenscape. And in order to do that, I really feel like we need to get some raised beds in here. And a sawmill would be perfect for creating the lumber for some of those raised beds. So that's project number 2. And as I mentioned before, along with the gravel drive coming down through here, it'll be easy for my wife to either take the side-by-side up here or to walk up here and not deal with the mud and all that during these times and get to the chicken coop. The chicken coop was built out of necessity with everything repurposed, including the shed was repurposed from the top of the hill. And then all this, the basic structure was there. And then we just added the fencing around it and underneath it. And that's the only expense I have into that is the top fence here. So everything else has been repurposed. Even some of the sawmill wood that we did mill earlier, a couple years ago, was reused in here to reinforce some things and create some perches for the chickens. So project number 4 is probably most near and dear to my wife's heart, and probably the reason that she's most interested in getting a sawmill, and that would be to build a deck off the house. Some of the lumber we wouldn't be able to mill, we'd have to still purchase some, but we want to create a deck off the back of the house that come out here about 20 feet, 25 feet for some entertainment room. And most importantly, the height, same height as the pool, so we can step down into the pool and not use that shaky little ladder that comes with them. Whether we long-term intend to keep a pool, I don't know. We can always transform the deck into a full deck that goes further out where the pool used to be if we ever get rid of it. So that's one of the key projects around here that my wife wants, and that's why she's interested in allowing me to get a sawmill. Another project further down on the list, but a priority for my wife, is to expand this deck. The deck is pretty nice, it's very nice to have, but we would not only want to expand it, but enclose it a little bit more on the older side and then leave this side open. But bringing it out another 10 to 15 feet, that we can install a door coming off the living room and be able to walk out onto the deck. So another reason maybe to buy a sawmill. Another reason to buy a sawmill is I truly hate having a nice boat not under storage, and we fight and fight with keeping the tarps on it throughout the winter especially. But I want to put some sort of a carport over this to where we can park the boat and keep it at least a roof over its head, and maybe even enclose the sides, I don't know about that, to keep some of the other elements out from there. But we got this nice gravel pad here, perfect location for the boat to come in and pick it up and take it to the lake. But I just hate storing it this way and fighting with those boat covers. So another reason to maybe buy a sawmill. All right, so if you haven't sensed it already, I've already made my mind up on buying a sawmill. My wife is also convinced that buying a sawmill could definitely benefit us, especially the amount of lumber. Whether we even have to purchase some store-bought lumber, which I know we will realistically for some of these building projects. But if we can use a sawmill to create some lumber that's usable on these projects, even if it's 50% of the project, I'm going to be saving a massive amount of money that I could be putting into a sawmill, right? Get my reasoning? So where I need help from you all are those three things: sawmill length, sawmill engine horsepower, sawmill width, and keep in mind 10 to 16 foot logs, 10 foot, 12 foot being probably the most common being cut. And then one other thing to consider is price, obviously. There's a lot of features, especially on that LT40 that I showed you, that when we had it here running, man, that's the Cadillac. That is super nice as far as being able to manipulate logs on the sawmill. And then the speed of that 35 horsepower engine cutting through anything. But that is a totally different mill, and its intended purpose is to not only make life easier if you can afford that, but in my case, it's way more than what I need here. Short-term, long-term, you know, at this point in time. So price-wise, I'm looking at a manual mill, no hydraulics probably at this juncture, because it just skyrockets the price. And the two sort of go hand in hand. And I know you can get sawmills as inexpensive as $3,000 on up to $10,000 with those benefits and features that I mentioned. So you all tell me your thoughts. If you have sawmills, what do you have and what do you like about them? And what would you have done differently when you purchased your sawmill? Saw that in a few of the videos, clips that I showed you, some YouTube channels, and I'll put their links in the description below because they're really good channels. I follow them, and they have a lot of good tips on sawmills, and most of this thought process has been built off of those two YouTube channels, among others that I've watched occasionally as well. But anyway, I'm really excited about purchasing a sawmill. That decision's made. Just need to pull the trigger. And in the meantime, thanks for stopping by Peterson Farms in Nashville. And if you like this kind of content, or the future content to come on the subject that we're talking about, sawmills, hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, hit that like button. We really appreciate it when you do that, and it helps the channel's algorithm get out there. So God bless you all, and see you next time. Phil out from Peterson Farms in Nashville.